Good morning, YouTube. I was just 3 minutes into making a video and realized that I was 3 minutes into making my video. So, this is going to be a quick response to two different videos. Excuse me, just had some breakfast. The first one is a video by someone whose username is another overtaxed taxpayer. I'll put a link in the description. Sorry. And another video response to someone, Bob Drudge, who just subscribed to my channel, so I took a look at some of his videos. And he had a really good video called People Who Suck, and I really liked it. So, first let's talk about the Taxpayer Man's video. 3 types of people to avoid. Now his list are braggers, war romantics, or kind of like violent conflict romantics. You know, when shit hits the fan, I'm going to go crazy and walk around with my guns, and if anyone messes with me, I'm going to shoot them, that kind of mentality. And needy people, 3rd type. So I'm going to share a little bit of insight on each one of these types of people. People that brag a lot. I'm going to be honest, I'm not the most humble person in the world, and I'm not proud of that. It's a character flaw that I'm working on. It's not an overnight fix, but I have learned as I get older that you can let your actions speak for themselves. You know, for example, I'm working on a sailboat right now. I don't think it's bragging to say that I'm working on the sailboat. I picked up a couple surfboards, I'm going to use them for the pontoons, etc., etc. But if I'm telling you, oh, I'm going to build this boat, and it's going to be great, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make these CAD designs, I'm going to do these calculations, and your first question to me is, so what have you done? And I say, oh, well, I'm still working on it. I'm still in the planning stage. I'm bragging about nothing. You know, I'm bragging about doing absolutely nothing. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can brag about things. You can claim that you're better at something that you are, claim that you've done something that you haven't. But the common thread between all people who brag is that, kind of a couple of common threads. One is that they feel this need to sort of prove to other people sort of beyond what they are. They need to prove that there's something like beyond what they are, maybe because they're not happy with sort of who they are at the moment. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a better person or wanting to get more in life or wanting to improve whatever you're working on. But to claim that you're more than you are, it's a character flaw. It's a mental defect. So don't brag. You know, if you need some attention for stuff that you're doing, I guess you know, make some YouTube videos about it or something. I really don't have a lot to brag about myself. You know, sometimes I talk about being in school. I'm fairly proud of the fact that I'm working on a difficult degree, but honestly, getting into school was mostly luck. You know, grades, transcripts, letters aside, it was basically luck. So I really can't brag for, you know, where I am in that aspect. War romantics. Yeah, watch out for people that fantasize violence. I have found that the people who are able to defend themselves physically or otherwise more are the ones that tend to be more calm. And the ones that cannot defend themselves as well or feel more insecure, the ones that tend to be louder and more violent. And, you know, tantrums and thrashing and all that stuff. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know, I would defend myself if I had to. Or, you know, if someone tried to loot my home, you know, whatever. But if you're around someone that's fantasizing violence and talking about how much they would enjoy, even in self-defense, even, if someone's like, well, I can't wait to just concealed carry my pistol and go out scouting because if anyone gives me any grief, they're going to talk to my pistol or something. Even that type of mentality, you really I think those who are going to survive long term, before or after shit hits the fan, are going to have a very non-confrontational mentality. Try to avoid, not because they can't deal with the confrontation, but because people are so friggin' unpredictable. You really don't know, before or after things get crazy. You don't know what their motivations are. You don't know who they are. You don't know who their friends are. You know, in general, of course, as you get to know people, you can kind of judge them a little bit better for the type of person they are. But why you would go out of your way to keep people in your life that fantasize about violence, I don't know. I don't personally, and it would be very, very disturbing to me, honestly, if someone I knew or someone I met um, was talking crazy like that. So yeah, I mean, it's really just crazy talk. Needy people. Oh, we all need stuff, don't we? Power, bed, shelter, food, water, friends, family, self actualization. Needy, needy, needy people. What do I need? Am I a needy person? I need stimulation. I am a little bit needy, but I try not to need things that are unhealthy. So I know that I need to be super active. I know I need to eat so many calories. It just frustrates me how much I have to eat. And I'm skinny as heck right now. I'm trying to gain weight too. So that's like another 1,000 calories a day. Um, I need socialization. I use the word need a little bit loosely in that sense, but whether it's with my classmates, I work kind of by myself when I do work, so I don't have that camaraderie. I do a little bit of volunteer work, kind of building the social circle in Los Angeles. So, everyone has their needs, but I think the point that he was trying to make is that he gave a really good example of people that always want help. Help me. And I had a roommate like this, help me with this, help me with this bill, help me with this thing, help me, give me a ride here or something. And it's funny because some people think it has to do with like wealth and it's really not. It's the type of mentality because I had another roommate who was even, well, I guess less poor than the needy roommate, but very, very independent young man. A little bit of a bragger. It's all right. He was a little insecure, but he really had a heart of gold. And I don't think he ever asked me for anything. Like, he never, for a cigarette or for a drink or a ride anywhere, he was such a good guy. I wasn't always a good roommate to him. I haven't always been a good person to, in general, but, you know, he was not needy and everyone loved him. He wasn't perfect. Nobody is, but people really liked him because he never, you always felt good when you're around him. You never felt like he was about to ask you for something. I hate that shit. Like, you just get this feeling around people like they're about to just fucking ask you for $5 or for a ride or for something. And it's not like I don't feel that helping people is important, but there's a difference between helping people sometimes or even once in a while versus this motherfucker always needs help, or just isn't motivated enough. Like, they ask you for a ride because they're going to be late, but they're not willing to take the bus, or they're not willing to set their alarm, or they're too retarded to not be late all the time. Because let's be honest, like, if you just can't even handle like being on time most of the time, like, focus on that before you worry about prepping. So that's kind of my comments on people to avoid. People who suck. Johnny Bob Drudge. Oh, man, this guy. I really like both these guys because they're not they're being very honest about how they feel about things. They're not holding anything back, but they're also sharing wisdom that I know from my own personal life experience. It's the type of stuff that they don't teach you in school. When was the last time you had a teacher say, "Watch out for really needy people. They're going to slow you down in life, and they're not going to bring more than they take from you." You never hear people say that. You might not even hear your friends and family say that. It's sort of like these little, if this is like what they teach at school, and this is what your family teaches you, there's kind of this big other gray life experience area that, um, unless somebody kind of goes out of their way to explain it to you, you don't always necessarily put these things together to think, wow, um, I really need to be a little more conscious about the people that I surround myself with. And for whatever reason, um, if not just because of annoyance, I consider myself a little fortunate to have higher standards to where I try not only try to be a better person myself most of the time, but try to surround myself with other good people and make a pretty conscious effort not to surround myself with people who suck. So without further ado, his first type of people that suck are people who are very manipulative. And this one really strikes home for me. I'm a little manipulative. I'm going to be honest. Now, I'm going to give you a little more details about this. I would never, I really don't use the skill, so to speak, for nefarious things. I suppose I could if I wanted to, but it's not the type of person I am. I also, I'm not, I don't use it to try to cause harm to anyone or do anything like that. Maybe I'll use it because I'm having problems with customer service. Maybe I'll use it a little bit at school because, somebody made some kind of mistake. I'm going to get an F in this class and it's not my fault. Or those are kind of like crappy examples, but I'm not going to use it to get one up on someone. I'm not going to use it to cheat someone out of a deal or something. I'm not going to use it to wrong someone. I might use it to correct a situation in which I've been wronged, and I try to do it in a respectful way. But sometimes you got to be a little bit clever and a little bit creative um, to get what you want in life or to get what you need in life. So I'll just leave it at that. But definitely, if someone is trying to manipulate people like all the time for, whether it's emotionally or physically or, there's a lot of different ways. Like the roommate that I was explaining that was really needy, he was really manipulative too. And coming from a somewhat manipulative person, like I actually wasn't going to move in with, or wasn't going to let him move in with me. And he convinced me like, oh, you don't really know me and you got a bad impression, which I didn't. My gut said, this dude is sketchy as fuck. He's a sketchy, needy, greasy, slippery fucking snake. And he's not a terrible person, but he's not the type of person you want as a roommate. That was my gut. But my brain said, wow, this guy, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was being a dick. You know, who am I to judge him? So he ended up moving in and just, not a bad person, but just had trouble holding down a job. He was having people come over with hard drugs. And I was just like, look, you can do whatever you want drug wise, but I can't have you bring that shit into my house. Not even my house, a house that I rent. So, one thing you bring your friend over and you're doing some shit at a house I own, but you're doing that shit at like a place I rent. Like I'm even more leery of that because just the liability. People that do drugs can be harder drugs especially can be unreliable, and I just don't want any part of that. So avoid people who manipulate, but sometimes, at least in my opinion, sometimes you got to be a little bit clever to kind of maneuver through life. Holier than thou. Um, yeah, clearly. I don't know if I've had any much experience with this recently. Actually, I'll give you a good example. And sometimes, these character traits, they aren't like if someone's needy, they're not going to be needy in their whole areas of life. Maybe they're just really needy in this one area. Or if someone's manipulative, they might just be manipulative in this one part of their life. So the holier than thou thing, that might not come up in every area of their life. Like they might be financially holier than thou, but maybe they're in terrible shape or something. I don't know. So they lord over everyone because everyone is broke and they have a 20-unit apartment complex, but they don't care about being a fat, disgusting fuck or something. But an example in my own life, there's a student, one of my classmate, I should say, I'm not a professor. I have a classmate who last semester we were talking about different ways to get the master's degree. You can do a thesis, you can do a test, or you can do a project. Um, and his sort of belief was that, or is, that, and some professors have this belief too, that it's that you need to do the thesis. And why aren't you doing the thesis? And what are you afraid of? And just like the thesis is the way to go. And if you're not going to do it, like just like incensed, like he wouldn't even validate that there were other reasons that a thesis might not be ideal. In his mind, it was just, you have to do it this way. And I can't understand why you wouldn't do it this way, but feel free to explain it to me if you think you can, you know. So, and I really like this guy, and he's actually in my class this semester. He's a really good guy. He's super smart. He's kind of like me in a lot of ways, some good ways and some bad ways. But this one thing, like, really pisses me off because, I have very personal feelings about my education, for example. So for someone to take this holier than thou approach towards the direction that I'm taking my education, it really, I really don't appreciate it. And it kind of goes to the basics of communication, at least according to one author, that when you're communicating with people, you need to validate, you need to kind of mirror, which is more on the physical side, and show empathy. And that validation, him not validating why I think what I was working on is important, that's that holier than thou stuff. So whether it's holier than thou as a prepper, as a religious person, as a person in shape, as a person with a social circle, whatever it is, people with that holier than thou mentality have decided that rather than try to grow as a person as they communicate with other people, that they're going to take this I'm right and you're wrong approach. Let's say it's on, I don't know, ammo, for example. One guy says, I have 10,022 rounds. Another guy says, I have 10,000 5.57s or 9 millimeters or whatever. And if the holier than thou person never gives an inch, and everything that they converse with you on whatever area they feel holier than thou, it's never going to be a meaningful conversation. I mean, unless the guy's an Olympic bodybuilder and he has a holier than thou opinion of how to become an Olympic bodybuilder, yeah, maybe he's right. He's a fucking bodybuilder. Or if you're talking to a Navy SEAL who's a sniper or who was a sniper, and he has a holier than thou opinion on the best way to train a sniper, well, maybe he's a really good sniper. So he has kind of a right to say, like, I know my way works because it worked really well for me, or whatnot. If there's a certain amount of skill, some amount of that is warranted, but even in that extreme case, that my way or the highway just doesn't lead itself to really productive conversation. So no matter what that kind of person might be able to bring to the table, like, that shit is so annoying to me that I don't want to deal with it. Even if they're right, just the way that they convey it, kind of talking down to you, I just can't stand it. So not trying to have people like that in my life. Whiners, ooh, complainers. So sometimes, people bitch, moan, and complain. Sometimes it's legitimate, sometimes it's not. But the biggest way to tell the difference between someone who's just having a rough time at the moment versus someone who's a whiner, like lost the word that I was looking for, like habitual complainer, is kind of like the pattern of their actions. If someone's bitching about having not enough money and they don't like their job, and then 2 months later you talk to them and they haven't looked for a single job, that's a whiner. That's a complainer. Now, if you talk to your friend who's telling you that they're sending out all these applications and it's really stressing them out because nobody's getting back to them, yes, that's a complaint, but that's a complaint from actually taking work. Now, if that same person 2 weeks later says, "Oh, I can't get a job," and you ask them, "Well, how many applications have you sent out?" and they said, "Well, I sent out a bunch 2 weeks ago, but no one's got back to me, so I kind of gave up for a little bit," or whatever they say, that person went from sort of a doer back to a complainer. So the key difference is, we're all allowed to bitch about stuff that frustrates us, but if that's kind of your main mode of trying to fix whatever you're going through, you're probably a complainer. Like let me give you an example. We'll see whether or not I'm a complainer. So things I might complain about: school is hard. Yeah, school is hard. I want more money. Want to make more money. Have more money saved, but also, I don't work full time, so obviously there's a big gap between what I could make working full time and not. Bigger social circle, more people to do stuff with. Okay, so what am I doing about these complaints? School wise, putting in more time, trying to get more connected with students, trying to stay on top of my teachers, as far as clear expectations. An example, I have a class where I have a project I have to do. We're in the 6th week of school, and I just got approved to work on to start working on the project. Our semester is 16 weeks long. So this professor, for a variety of reasons, not completely because they're just out their space and out or whatever, decided that we needed 6 weeks to decide who our teams were. That's a complaint. Now, it's his class. He's going to run it how he wants to run it. But I did as much as I felt I could appropriately in the situation. And beyond that, I just said, you know what, I'm going to do as much as I can. I'm going to try to let it go because I can't hold on to this. I was feeling really bitter about it. I'm going to be honest. I was just like, why isn't he letting me start? I have so much stuff to do. But sometimes, you got to say the serenity prayer. And if you don't know it, it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That last sentence being the main thing. You can't always change life. And I am a habitual trying to mold the world for my means. Maybe I'll talk about that later. I don't know if I consider it a character flaw, but it does cause me grief sometimes. Complaint number 2. Want more money. What am I doing about it? Doing some side projects to try to prove to employers that I have skills. Doing some volunteer work to increase my social circle and because I'm doing it because I enjoy it, but on paper, I'm doing it because it impresses people. I don't care who it impresses. I care that it impresses someone enough that they might offer me a job. So I'm doing it first because I feel strongly about it. Second, because I'm learning skills. And third, kind of like way below that, not a lot below it, but some below it, because I know it has financial rewards. Applying to full-time jobs. And let me say something about, and I think I touched on this really briefly in a video like a few weeks ago. No matter what you want in life, you're not going to get it alone. You're not going to get it by yourself. You need to be honest and communicative with people about what you want. Sorry, my neighbors are like making weird noises because they're animals. So let me give you an example of this. Let me check the 30-minute video. So last night, and kind of even ties in full circle to why you shouldn't necessarily write people off that have, certain character flaws. Last night, that classmate, the holier than thou thesis classmate, was talking to him about work, and he said, "So, do you have any work lined up, any jobs or anything?" And I said, "No, I really don't. I'm doing some applying online." And that was it. I really didn't have a good answer for him. And he said, "You should check out USA Jobs. You're a US citizen, da-da-da." USA Jobs is like federal and state jobs, mostly federal jobs, I think. But the point is, if I would have tried to brag or be dishonest to him and said, yeah, I have a few things lined up or I'm working on a couple things, it would have completely shut him off. Now, I already have a profile on USA Jobs. I'm already familiar with the website, but that's not the point. He could have said a million different job sites. Point I'm trying to make was, even though it was a little bit embarrassing for me to say, yeah, I really don't have shit lined up, if I'm trying to take my life forward in the next step, you have to be honest with people around you because they can't help you if they don't know what you need. Right now, I need a job. So I'm not too shy about telling people, yeah, I'm looking for a full-time job. Um, if you don't tell people, they they can't do that stuff. And third complaint, bigger social circle. Yeah, I just need to get out more, need to make more money so I feel more comfortable. Gas, food, beers. I really don't, as much as I want to hang out with people, and as even though I have school and responsibilities and other stuff like that, I really don't want to go to some stupid bar or even a decent bar or grill and pay $10 for a burger and buy three beers for like $4 or $5 each, $15. I don't feel like time I spend with another person is of higher quality because I'm spending $25. Now, yeah, I could, make some friends that like hiking and picnics and stuff like that, and I'm sure I will at some point. But for me, living in Southern California, unless I find some kind of like broke college students to hang out with or something, most people sort of close to my age are perfectly happy spending their money on frivolous things constantly. And I don't have any interest in doing that. And the thing is, socially, it creates friction. Like if the friends and people that I hang out with always want to go drop 20, 30, 40, $50, maybe just on brunch, or on an afternoon or something, and they want to do that every weekend, even if they can afford it, if I'm not trying to do that, they're just going to stop inviting me and not really be, interested. And not everyone's like that, but I'm sure you can relate that you have friends that like going out. And if you had $100 to blow every night, maybe you could find friends to spend that money with every night. You could fill up your calendar and blow $700 a week or more on just entertainment. Even if I had that money, unless I was like $10,000 a month passive income, maybe I'd blow $500 a month on entertainment or something. But I can't see myself wasting my money on the things that a lot of my peers um, spend their money on. Like I need to find people to go to the range with, go on hikes with, go camping with, stuff like that. So this turned into a super, super long video. Um, but maybe you learned a thing or two. Maybe something I said touched a chord with you. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe. Let me know if take a look at some of my other videos. Tell me if you think that the type of videos that I'm making have value. If you think I should focus more on hard skill stuff, I don't know, how to sharpen a knife, how to light a fire, how to pitch a tent. I am going to be getting into the outdoors a little bit more in the future, but just kind of not stuck in the city, but sort of financially motivated not to spend. Um, it's going to cost me like $20 just to drive out to some BLM area. So it's like spend $20 to go play in the dirt or buy $20 of preps. Right now, I'm choosing buy more water and food, buy a tourniquet, buy some combat gauze, buy stuff like that. Once I kind of have some more of that stuff, then I'll get a little bit more into the camping. But thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.